Welcome back to the next part of the Paninis of Pompeii. I hope you've been enjoying it so far. We are now on Filius and Slavius. Now Filius had everything he could possibly want in life. A pencil with a rubber on the end, some mirror men, and something else. All sorts of things. He even had a dice, and when you threw it, it controlled the weather. It was sunny. Oh, this is a tricky one. So 1, it was sunny. 2, it was cloudy. This is Roman numerals. 3, it was stormy. 4 was rainbows you could eat. 5 was overcast. And 6 was all the weather at once. But still, Filius was bored. Because children with everything often have nothing in a way. I am bored, Barcus Wolferinicum, said Filius. Why don't you do that trick you like doing to cheer me up? So Barcus Wolferinicum did his trick, but it didn't really cheer Filius up, because the trick was just to carry on behaving normally. Drat and figs, said Filius, who had learnt this naughty expression from his father. I think I am going to go crazy with boredom, you know. But just then he heard someone else saying, Drat and figs, in the next room, and his curiosity roused. Filius crept along the corridor and peered into the front room, where Slavius, the household slave, was looking gloomy, as if someone had rolled a V on his face. Drat and figs, sighed Slavius. I am so bored of being a slave. I wish I could be anyone else. Yes, even that spoilt brat Filius. Just for one day. I bet if I were Filius, everything would be all right. Now, this gave Filius an extremely crafty idea. He ran into the room and smashed Slavius over the head with an enormous Roman vase. That's for calling me a spoilt brat, said Filius. And then he had another crafty idea. Let us change places, you and I, said Filius. For just one day you shall be me and I shall be you. I see, said Slavius. Your plan is a delight, for we look quite similar, you and I. So now let us change our togas, and aho, aha, we each are the other one now. I am Filius, said Slavius, clapping his hands in glee. And aho, aha, I am Slavius, announced Filius. Then Slavius, dressed as Filius, smashed a vase over Filius's head. What was that for? Said Filius, dressed as Slavius. That's for calling me a spoilt brat, laughed Slavius. For I am now you and you me, remember? Just then, Caeculius's car pulled into the driveway. The Romans did not have cars. Of course, car was just short for carrot. Caeculius and Vesuvius had been out all afternoon in their carrot, with their ugly friends Atrium and Hortus. I don't know why we're even friends with those dreadful people, grumbled Vesuvius as she and her husband slipped through the front door. All Hortius ever does is go on and on about her scented herb garden, even though I've never heard of her scented herb gardens, if she has any, and in actual fact she never goes on about them at all, but I bet she will in a later story. There, said Caeculius, fondly stroking his wife's hair. Then he glanced at the sundial on his wrist. By the gods of honey and fig mountain, he cried, we shall be late for the theatre. Filius, my lad, come along, look lively. Quick, said the real Filius in the front room. Slavius, you must go with them and pretend to be me. And you must go to the Tavern of the Slaves, grinned Slavius, and pretend to be me, for I promised my friend Agricola that I would be there tonight to make merry with him. Then the game is on, said real Filius, quickly smashing a vase over the real Slavius's head. What was that for? Asked Slavius. I'm not really sure, admitted Filius, who had lost track of who should be smashing who over the head with an enormous Roman vases. Now go, and maybe the luck of the gods go with you." "You too," laughed the real Slavius, and running into the hallway he said, "Salve, mother and father, it is me, your little son, Filius, ready to accompany you to the theatre." "Then let us proceed there at once," said Caecilius, and catching hold of a passing dove he announced, "We shall travel by dove." But the dove was unable to bear the weight of 3 people, and so they walked to the theatre instead. As soon as they were gone, Filius, disguised as Slavius, leapt out of his hiding place and ran outdoors. "Ha!" he shouted at the evening sky. "What fun it is to be a slave! I have never felt so free!" And off he headed to the Tavern of the Slaves to experience life in another world. Walking through the theatre doors, Slavius, described as Filius, could barely believe his eyes. "It is so big and grand," he marvelled. "What are we here to see?" "We are going to start watching a new play called The Boy Who Lied to Some People Who Trusted Him," said Caecilius. "That sounds exciting," said Slavius. "Shall we go and sit down?" "Yes," replied Caecilius, "but first, don't you want some of your favourite theatre snacks?" "Yes, please, father," replied Slavius. "What are they again? I've forgotten." "Why, it's strawberries that you love. That's what you love," laughed Vesuvius. "Here, let me buy you the biggest basket that money will buy." And the 3 of them entered the theatre with Slavius silently cheering to himself, as if someone had rolled an I inside his soul, or a 1 inside his soul. Strawberries and entertainment, he thought. Certainly, is it a fact that, indeed, it is surely the life for me, most excellently and decidedly so in truth. Meanwhile, Filius, disguised as Slavius, had reached the Tavern of the Slaves, which was a lowly building, which meant it stank. The floor was covered with sawdust and broken pencils with rubbers on the end lying about, and none of the mirror men had been tidied for months. But just lay in heaps in the corner, gathering dust and laying eggs. All the same, Filius was enchanted. "Back at the villa, everything is so clean and neat and dull," he marvelled. "Truly, this is where the life is, with these lowly, reeking people and their crude games and challenges." "Aha!" bellowed a voice in Filius's ear just then. "Slavius, I knew you would show up. Good to see you, mate." Filius turned and saw a fellow not much older than himself. He was startled to see that it was Agricola, the slave that belonged to his parents' ugly friends, Atrium and Hotus. "Agricola, do not address me in so familiar a manner," said Filius angrily. "Go and fetch some farts, and look quick about it, or next time I shall not be merely the sharpness of my tongue you feel, but the keen cut of my whip, you insolent goat." "Why, marvellous Agricola, you talk to me as if you were not a slave yourself, but instead a young master, such as that spoilt brat Ouch! Why did you just smash an enormous Roman vase over my head?" "Never mind," said Filius. "Now, look, Agricola, I am sorry I spoke to you like a young master. It was just a sort of joke. I am actually a slave like you. Now, let us sit and scoop up a fart or two and talk about what slaves like to talk of." Filius sat himself down on one of the mean chairs of the place and regarded the soiled and crusty table with interest. Agricola went to the bar and returned holding a couple of farts. One of each he offered to Filius, but Filius was struck with a dumb sort of horror, as he had rarely known. "Why," he thought, "I have never seen such a lowly grade fart in all my life. It is full of gristle and bone, and see, it hardly swirls, but lies in Agricola's hand like a tired mouse. I can barely bring myself to scoop it up." Ah, said Agricola. "Look at that, would you? A grade E, what a treat!" "But it's hardly even fit for a dog such as Barcius Wolferinicum," shouted Filius. "Do not touch it a moment longer." And rising, he swatted at the fart and sent it flying from Agricola's hands through the window, where it immediately scurried away into the shadows. "I do not know what has got into you tonight, Slavius," exclaimed Agricola, also rising. "You, who are so fond of the Tavern of the Slaves, have treated everything as if it was beneath you. Shame, 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 shame on you. Yes, you heard me, Slavius. You have brought the 7 shames of the slave upon you. 1 for pride, 2 for loathsome thoughts, 3 for vile countenance, 4 for immoral indecision, 5 for being weak of flesh, 6 for idle hands, and 7 for foolish dotery. Yes, Slavius, I pronounce upon you the 7 shames of the slave, and each more shameful than the last." "Blast him to the gods!" cried the other slaves, and soon a full-fledged brawl was in progress, with Filius and Agricola at the centre of the ruckus. "I do not think I like this play," said the real Slavius back at the theatre. "Hush! It is an excellent entertainment," said Caecilius. "And look, you well to the moral of the story, which is coming up now." On stage, the actor was weeping and wailing. "Oh, woe, woe," he said. "I am undone, for I once was a good boy, a simple slave to a family who cared for me and gave me shelter and some ham. But I have lied to them, I have disguised myself as their son, and now God will punish me." "That is correct," said a huge face made of wood. It was only a play, but Slavius was completely terrified, for he had never been to the theatre before, and his simple slave's mind could hardly tell the difference between the truth and fiction. "I am the mighty god Jupiter," thundered the face on the stage. "Now, you naughty boy who lied to the very people who trusted him, I will thwart you. For you have eaten strawberries which you did pluck from my enchanted forest, and which you did think were so sweet. But no, it was all a trap. I have made them as bitter and poisonous as your lies themselves, and now you shall perish from eating them." "It is all I deserve," wept the actor on the stage as he fell to his knees and rolled on his side. "And now, because of my lies, I die." "No, no," shouted Slavius from his seat. "I cannot stand it any longer. It is all I deserve. It is all I deserve. Yes, these strawberries, I can feel them burning me up inside, just like that deceitful boy in the play. Oh, I can feel them inside me. What agony! I must die. I must surely die." And scattering strawberries everywhere, he leapt from his seat and ran from the theatre into the dark nights beyond. Meanwhile, the real Filius was racing away from the Tavern of the Slaves, with Agricola and the rest of his fellows in hot pursuit, throwing tables, chairs, farts, mirrormen, tankards, vase, and a tree at him. "You think you're better than us, Slavius," they yelled. "We'll show you." The terrified lad ran round the corner, only to collide with the real Slavius as he fled the theatre in tears. "You," said Filius. "You," said Slavius. "Quick, we must change back," breathed Filius. "I cannot cope with your life of quick tempers and low-grade farts. And I, for my part, cannot stand the incredible morals and meaningful strawberries of high society," declared Slavius. In a flash they exchanged togas, and now they stood in the middle of the street as the slaves came running up on one side and Caecilius and Vesuvius approached from the other. "Calm down, everyone," said Filius. "There is no need to fight nor be angry, for you see before you 2 simple fools, one born high, the other a common slave, who each thought he would be better off in the other's sandals." "But we were wrong," said Slavius, "for the moral of ancient Pompeii is this: no person should be unhappy with his lot." "Well, I don't really understand," said Caecilius, stroking Filius and Slavius's hair fondly, "but I am glad to have a son who is back, and the 2 of you shall go unpunished on this occasion." "And we are glad to have our friend Slavius back," said the slaves. Hooray! Cried Filius, as he took out his dice and rolled a 3. Oh, it storms, he said, as it began to thunder and rain. It does not matter, said Caecilius, stroking the thunder's hair fondly as they walked back to the villa, Filius and Slavius arm in arm like brothers. It's only weather. It does not mean that the story turned out unhappily. And they all laughed, for Caecilius was right, and they went back to the villa, and never again did Filius and Slavius swap places. But from that day forth, each understood the other's life a little better. Filius stopped smashing enormous vases over Slavius's head quite so often, and for his part, Slavius more or less stopped gossiping about Filius and referring to him as a horrid little pooh-face behind his back. The end.